A very good evening to you. Thank you for choosing KBC Channel 1. This is Prime Edition. Now, it is the eve of the maandamano that is going to happen tomorrow by Azimio team, and of course the government has warned that those people who will be destroying property will not be condoned. All those details are coming up, but a little bit later we shall be having the scorecard. And what is happening tonight, I shall not be telling you because O'Brien Kimani is on the other side of the studio. O'Brien, what shall you be scoring tonight?
Well, absolutely. Tonight we just want to focus on the junior secondary school. And of course, we shall be looking at the challenges and the opportunities. And of course, our experts in the studio will be making some recommendations on how best to implement this transition. So that is a conversation that you just absolutely have to stick by.
Definitely, you want to catch up with Scorecard with O'Brien Kimani as well as Marie Yambo, who will be joining him at 10 p.m. But of course, we shall be giving you the news, and first we have the highlights.
You cannot sabotage the employment of 1 million Kenyans because of selfish political interests.
Destroy property or injure Kenyans at own risk. President Ruto warns Azimio protesters. Protest going digital. Azimio launches Tumechoka signature collection public portal.
So it's very unfortunate that we have to inform Kenyans that from Friday you will have to seek alternative.
And health crisis looms with medics downing tools this Friday.
This is Prime Edition. My name is Betty Kiptum. Now, President William Ruto has warned that no one will be allowed to cause destruction of property or injuries to Kenyans going about their lives under the disguise of peaceful protests slated for tomorrow. Speaking in Nairobi while issuing title deeds to Embakasi Ranching Company shareholders, the head of state said the government will not bow to pressure from the opposition to abandon its programs that he noted are geared towards creating jobs for the unemployed youths. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua further cautioned that all law offenders will be arrested despite their political status. Giverson Minor reports.
While issuing title deed to Embakasi Ranching Company shareholders in Embakasi, Nairobi, President Ruto cautioned the Raila Odinga-led Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance over Wednesday protest, saying the government will crack down on all law offenders out to cause mayhem in the country.
Wamekasirika na mimi. Ati mimi nataka nichukue vijana wengi waende kazini, watakosa watu ya kufanya maandamano na kutupa mawe. Kwani kuna kijana amezaliwa Kenya hii kufanya maandamano na kutupa mawe? Mimi nataka niwaambie hawa wangwana, sisi tunawajua na tunajua mbinu zenu. Na itaanguka vile ilianguka mbeleni na vile inaangukanga kila siku. So, musipoteze wakati.
Ruto said Azimio coalition is out to sabotage government programs, among them affordable housing, which he said will create at least 1 million jobs for their employed youths.
You cannot sabotage the employment of 1 million Kenyans because of selfish political interests. Na mimi siwezi kubali kwamba tuko na nchi ambayo watu wachache wanazuia ndio watu wengi wasifaidike. I will not allow you to sabotage that plan because you have done it for so many years. This is not the year you are going to succeed.
The head of state declared the death of 6 people during last Friday's protest, warning that the law will take its course.
I will not allow any other Kenyan to lose their life so that somebody can satisfy his political ambition. That is not going to happen.
His deputy Rigathi Gachagua further warned that those out to destroy property will not be spared, regardless of their social or political status.
Kama mlijaribu kumzuia rais, mkiwa na mamlaka, mkiwa na pesa, mkiwa na polisi, mkiwa na machief, Mungu akakataa. Saa hii mko msituni, mtamsumbua huyu rais na jiagani.
The DP said the police will arrest any law offender. Giverson Minor, Prime Edition.
And Azimio la Umoja has launched a public portal in its attempt to hit the 15 million signature mark to force government to review the Finance Act 2023. Opposition Chief Raila Odinga says Azimio is keen on bringing down the cost of living through the signature collection exercise that he claims has hit the 1.2 million mark.
Ahead of a planned countrywide demonstrations by the opposition, its luminaries are keen on upping the stakes by launching a signature collection public portal. In what they say will force the government to rethink the suspended Finance Act, the opposition says it has reviewed its target from 10 million signatures to 15 million.
The digital platform we have unveiled today is complementary to all other efforts and platforms, including civil disobedience, tax boycotts, and defiance that are meant to compel the regime to repeal the Finance Act 2023 and take deliberate steps to lower the cost of living.
Opposition Chief Raila Odinga alleges the executive has refused to listen to Kenyans to lessen the burden on their shoulders occasioned by the high cost of living, necessitating the action of signature collection.
The Finance Act 2023 clearly exposed the fact that our leaders have decided to take instructions from the executive, and the executive has decided to pursue its own wishes regardless of what the people feel or say. Both the legislature and the executive have ganged up against the people, and the people have been left on their own.
The opposition is insistent that it will continue with the planned countrywide demonstrations Wednesday as part of its pressure strategy, warning security agencies not to interfere.
We intend to move to court and institute prosecution against individual officers who are involved in unconstitutional and illegal actions against protesters in the course of our activities.
We want to ask you to cease waging warfare against your people when they exercise their constitutional rights.
The fact that you have a right to present a petition doesn't mean you have a right to ask 50,000 people to storm a street or a town or, just close a road and people cannot travel. And this is, which constitution is that?
Raila later visited the famous Kenyatta Market in Nairobi as he sought to rally his supporters behind the signature collection exercise. In the meantime, civil society organizations claim police officers used excessive force in dealing with demonstrators during the Friday protests.
We call upon the Independent Policing Oversight Authority and the Internal Affairs Unit to investigate all cases of arbitrary arrest, mistreatment and atrocities committed by officers of the National Police Service.
John Jacob Curia, Prime Edition.
And Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki is promising decisive action against those who failed to act and abetted the Shakahola deaths. Kindiki is specifically trading his guns on judicial officers, prosecutors and police officers from Malindi for turning a blind eye leading to the many deaths. Appearing before a Senate ad hoc committee, Cabinet Secretary revealed that some police officers in Malindi who have since been transferred after the massacre failed to act on various formal reports filed against cult leader Paul Mackenzie, as Abdiaziz Hashim reports.
As security apparatus continue to comb the vast Shakahola forest for more bodies. Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki appearing before the Senate ad hoc committee investigating the Shakahola massacre for the third time to shed more light on the status of the investigation.
And we will not spare anybody. We will not spare anybody. The God whom they preach, whom they are telling us has allowed them to do things without questions, is the same God we are serving in our law enforcement.
The Interior CS pointing blame at some judicial officers, prosecutors and police officers from Malindi, he says, must answer to their commission and omissions.
not the entire service, but some officers will have a case to answer, and other organs of security. I believe even the judiciary, some officials will have a case to answer.
The CS says that cult leader Paul Mackenzie had run-ins with local enforcement numerously since 2017, but was always released on a cash bail despite facing terror-related charges, which should not have been the case.
There are many things that the police should have done differently. There are many things that the NIS should have done differently. There are many things that the ODPP should have done differently, and there are many things that the judiciary should have done differently. So I hope you'll talk to the judiciary, because we have issues there, and we would want to respect them as our anchors of legalism and constitutionalism.
The CS stating that those who slept on the job must answer for their deeds. Kindiki vowing to put in place regulations formed to guide the religious sector to avoid a repeat of what transpired in Shakahola. Tuesday marked day 2 of the 4th phase of the exhumation of bodies at Shakahola Forest, where 10 more bodies have been exhumed today, raising the death toll to 360. According to the Coast Regional Commissioner Rodo Nyancha, 95 people have been rescued from the vast land, as 37 people remain in police custody. Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki has confirmed he will be visiting the vast Shakahola Forest for the 9th time before the investigative bodies conclude their investigation into the matter. Abdiaziz Hashim for Prime Edition.
The story there by Abdiaziz Hashim takes us to our first break here on Channel 1 Prime Edition. But of course, don't go anywhere. We shall be back with more news. Stay with us.
Mamlaka ya ukusanyaji ushuru nchini KRA kwa ushirikiano na KBC inawaalika mjumuike nasi katika bonge la roadshow itakayofanyika Nairobi County. Njoo ujifunze kuhusu e-teams na jinsi imerahisisha ulipaji wa kodi. Alhamisi tarehe 13 mwezi huu wa Julai, msafara wetu utaanzia Kangundo Road na kuelekea Kasarani hapo Total Petrol Station, Mwiki, Githurai 45 Stage, Roysambu, Kahawa West na tumalizie Zimmerman. Ijumaa tarehe 14 tutakuwa maeneo ya Juja Road na Outer Ring Road. Pale maafisa wa KRA watakuwa na mobile offices hapo Pumwani, mtaa wa Khalif Isli, Majengo, Kariobangi, Fedha, Pipeline, Kayole na tumalizie Dandora. Na siku ya Jumamosi tarehe 15 msafara wetu utatembelea maeneo ya Kangemi, Mountain View Mall, Uthiru, Dagoretti, Satellite, Nairobi West, South B, South C, Ngong Road, Kibra, Karen, Ngong na tumalizie huko Rongai. Kutakuwa na burudani, vichekesho na zawadi kem za kushindaniwa. Jitokeze ujifunze mengi kuhusu e-teams na masuala mengine yanayohusika na KRA. KRA, tulipe ushuru, tujitegemee.
So who is he? His name is Alex, but I am not saying anything more. Nguo zako, viatu zako na hii sura yako ataki kuiona huko.
Unajua mimi nikikasirika.
Ha! Jemadari! Usimefurahi. Sitakubali ufanye mamangu akwe mwenda azimu wewe. Utadu nini? Hey!
Jane, leave alone. That's what she wants.
Christine na Teresia ni kesi ngumu sana.
Kuna kitu nataka kukuambia.
Sure.
And you can't tell anyone.
I promise.
Nitakwambia andike jina nani.
Unataka kuruka? Hebu toka kwangu uende.
You would get a man out of his bed in the middle of the night so he can take him to the courtyard and practically undress him and shower him with iced water.
Doctor, regarding the results of the test of my father, can we see them?
Oh, they're not ready yet.
Let me know when you have them, Doctor, so I can come and get them. No, Doctor, let me know. In fact, I'm going to come personally to get them.
I don't think his daughter knows anything. But there could be other people who know.
Rodrigo decided that he won't be with you. It's not my fault. You...
Las Malditas.
Welcome back. Now, the health workers' strike scheduled for Friday is still on. The caucus of health workers associations cited inaction by the Ministry of Health and the Council of Governors in addressing their grievances and cautioned those seeking treatment at public hospitals from that date to seek alternative means. Top on their demands was the absorption of universal health care workers into permanent and pensionable terms and harmonization of their terms of employment.
Services across public hospitals are said to be paralyzed beginning Thursday midnight when the 60-day strike notice by health workers lapses. The health workers are demanding absorption of universal health care workers into permanent and pensionable terms, harmonization of terms of employment, timely completion of the collective bargaining agreement, and recognition for respective unions.
We want these people on permanent and pensionable because we want their terms of engagement be harmonized with their equivalent who are serving in the same ministry. What is happening is that the Council of Governors continue to advocate for extension for 3 years against the advisory of the Public Service Commission. For the last 7 years, the healthcare workers have not experienced any gain in terms, or rather financial increment in terms of their payment. So we are urging that there must be a consideration.
Tuko na mambo kidogo ambayo nataka tukutane na tumalizie. Recognition agreement ya vyama kama hivi vyetu. Tuko na vyama miungano zaidi ya 4 ambayo ina recognition agreement na tuweze kukaa kwenye meza kama tuna recognition agreement.
The health workers lamented that efforts to get audience with the Minister of Health and the Council of Governors have proved futile.
The employers have decided to go on strike and they have decided we must join them. So it's very unfortunate that we have to inform Kenyans that from Friday you will have to seek alternative services from the private sector because the public facilities will not have any of the officers to provide the health services.
Among the health workers said to go on strike are clinical officers, environmental health and public health practitioners, pharmaceutical technologists, nutritionists and dietitians, medical laboratory officers, among others. Despite vowing to paralyze services across the public hospitals, the healthcare unions have maintained that they are still ready for negotiations should their employer reach out before the lapse of the 60-day notice on Thursday midnight. Meanwhile, health workers in Machakos County have issued a 6-day strike notice demanding a conducive working environment, citing shortage of staff and stagnation in job groups.
Without a serious, meaningful engagement from the same county government that we have now engaged for over 1 year plus without any tangible result, then it is unfortunate. And our members have given us a very stern warning that they shall take themselves to strike even without our command.
Unapokwenda hospitalini na upati madaktari wa kutosha, basi unaketi pale kwa muda mrefu sana ukingojea huduma, na hilo si jambo mzuri.
Time is up. Our members have refused. It is time to go on a strike.
Nancy Okware, Prime Edition, Nairobi.
To transport matters now, Matatu Owners Association has refuted claims of a strike by Matatu operators that had allegedly been scheduled to take place on Wednesday. However, the association's chairperson, Albert Karakacha, says they are working on addressing issues affecting players in the sector. He called upon Matatu operators to air their grievances to the association instead of resulting in industrial action.
And what we are urging the guys who are trying to come up with a strike, they need to sit down with their employers, and the employers will be able to come up with a modality how to support them. But there is a channel of how to put everything together so that we can be able to say this is the day that we are going to take, this is how much the driver should be paid, this is how much the conductor should be paid, and then we move on.
And in the crime update, police in Meru have launched investigations into the murder of a female student at Kanyekine Kenya Medical Training College. Confirming the incident, Imenti South Police Commander Abdul Rahim Musa said the deceased was allegedly murdered by her boyfriend, who also injured 3 other students.
Residents of Kanyekine area in Meru County are yet to come to terms with the bizarre killing of Winfred Opa, a student at Kanyekine Kenya Medical Training College, allegedly killed by her boyfriend. According to Imenti South Police Commander Abdulrahim Musa, the suspect committed the heinous act on Sunday morning, during which he also injured 3 other people.
Sio mzuri na sio majibu ya kuchukua silaha kwa mkono na kuumiza wengine, na pia hiyo pia ni kuumiza wewe mwenyewe, kujiumiza wewe mwenyewe. Kwa hivyo ningehimiza sana wasichukue sheria kwa mkono yao na wakuwe watu watalivu.
One of the victims is admitted at Consolata Hospital in Kubu, while the other 2 were treated and discharged. Also, police in Kiambu are investigating an incident where thieves broke into Gatuyu coffee mills in Kamodhoi, Githunguri constituency and stole 30 sacks of coffee.
Nitaita wakulima haraka iwezekanavyo, tuongee nao tujue vile tutapanga mambo ya security.
Githunguri lawmaker Gathoni wa Mushomba regretted the incident and urged police to expedite investigations and ensure the culprits face the full force of the law.
Kama hatutatengeneza hata sheria za kumanage hizi societies, tuko na shida sana. Tutoe zile sheria zilikuwa zimewaruhusu waende wakope pesa on behalf of farmers. Tutoe borrowing powers.
Meanwhile, 2 suspected car robbers were fatally shot by a civilian who is a licensed firearm holder in Keiko and Githunguri constituency after they were caught vandalizing vehicles on Monday night.
Juu si mara ya kwanza wamekuja huku, wamezoea, na tunashukuru hata hizi rights tumewekewa na government ya Kiambu. Juu kama hakungekuwa na mwangaza, hawa watu hawangeshikwa.
While confirming the incident, Kiambu County Police Commander Paminas Kioi said 4 thugs attacked tenants and started vandalizing the vehicles which were parked outside their houses.
We have another syndicate which has been operating within Nijunja, Kiaulia area, and another syndicate now which is operating in Thika. We are out for them and we are not going to relent until we clear this menace.
2 were shot dead while the other 2 escaped with injuries.
KBC.
Timothy Kipnusu for Prime Edition.
And reproductive health and family planning still remain a key challenge towards population growth globally. A report by the United Nations released in commemoration of the World Population Day, observed every 11th of July globally, recommends enhanced awareness on various population issues such as the importance of family planning, gender equality, poverty, maternal health, and human rights.
The world's population now stands at 8 billion people, according to statistics from the United Nations. Reproductive health, however, is still a key challenge towards population growth, with the rise in infertility. Surrogacy, which for decades has in developed nations been viewed as an option for couples who cannot naturally have babies, is gradually gaining currency in Kenya. Lea Wanja Kimemia, a 30-year-old chief executive of a local interior design firm in Nakuru, describes her decision of deciding to be a surrogate mother.
It was a very close family friend, and she was very desperate, getting to age day by day, years passed on, and she's getting to almost 40 years old and above, and shouldn't get her kid. She has fertility issues, and she's been struggling to get a baby. She has tried all procedures, and she wouldn't get the baby. And the only solution is someone to carry the baby for her. That is what inspired me.
Even as Ms. Kimemia opts to play surrogacy, she is alive to the fact that currently the laws and regulations regarding the procedure aren't very clear, and this can be a problem for both donors and surrogates.
The law to address the risks that come along with the pregnancy. Let's say, for example, miscarriages. I might get pregnant and I miscarriage along the way. So what happens? Is the contract terminated?
Contract law provides that you cannot make a contract of a human being. You know, that's a void contract. So although on the sides this has been happening, the courts have been interpreting that just basically as an, you know, willing parties have come and agreed on something, but it's largely unregulated, which has a number of consequences.
20,000
for the 3 months.
According to Dr. Justus Nondi, a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist at Nectar Gynecology and Fertility Center in Nakuru, surrogacy is relatively new in Kenya, with the very first one being in 2007. He says 2 out of 10 couples in Kenya are affected by infertility, while 3 out of 10 patients visiting health facilities in Nakuru have problems with conception.
That's a very big number, and it's really concerning us. In fact, the World Health Organization is seriously concerned about the rates of infertility. And there's a general push to have infertility treatment and its management anchored in primary health care.
Surrogacy has, however, elicited diverse opinions from religious leaders.
The position of the church would not support a bill that is contrary, or it is not right on matters of human dignity.
Third party kwa Uislamu hiyo inakuwa ni haramu. Yaani a third party hawezi chukua mimba ambao kwamba ni ya watu wengine. Hata hiyo inakuwa ni yenye kuchanganya watu wawili.
For Kimemia, however, all she can do is to wait for the opportunity to help a sister in distress. Jacqueline Masharia for Prime Edition.
Cheza Loto Moto. Sasa unaweza jishindia instantly na Loto Moto. Dial *570 hash. Wakati wowote, siku yoyote ya wiki na mahali popote. Dial *570 hash. Kisha chagua moja kati ya games za Loto Moto. Weka stake zako 50 shillings, 300, 500, 2,000 shillings. The bigger your stake, the greater or the bigger your prizes. Cheza mara kadhaa na kumbuka, cheza responsibly. 18 years and above. Cheza Loto Moto.
You are par with me. A good time is guaranteed. Some time out, burn some kush.
Thank you for staying with us. Time now to take a look at the business news for the day. A feasibility study will be conducted to determine if power purchase agreements should be denominated in Kenyan shilling, a mix of the Kenyan shilling and the dollar or retain the dollar. This is according to Energy Cabinet Secretary Davis Chilchil, who says the latest feasibility study will be focused on small plants after a similar study on larger plants indicated having a mixed denominated power purchase agreements was unviable. Churchill also says the government is working on reducing power transmission losses at Kenya Power from the current 23.5% to 14%.
The other initiative is more external, and it's around transfer of transmission assets, payment of rural electrification scheme, deficit and settlement of the transferred transmission assets. This is ongoing under the strategic leadership of the ministry with the support of the National Treasury and other relevant departments of government. On the viability of introducing policies or policy that utilizes local currency denominated PPAs or having a mix of local and foreign currency denominated PPAs in renewable energy, the sector had recently conducted a feasibility study on viability of Kenya shilling denominated PPAs. This study found this option unviable but recommend a pilot to be conducted for small capacity renewable energy projects, Chair.
How many connections or switch-ons or commissionings that are waiting? How many meters are you waiting for, please?
We have recently been able to resolve the issue of meters, and we believe soon we are going to get deliveries of the meters, and we will be able to give priority to those long outstanding projects that have not been metered.
The issue around how we have arrived at the tariffs, we did conduct countrywide public participation and eventually gazetted the applicable tariffs for a 3-year tariff control period from the 1st of April 2023.
Was it by constituency or county, one forum per county or one forum per constituency? And if there are those records, we would like even to know just the constituencies represented by members in here where those public participation forums happened.
Because we will not allow you, EPRA, to make baseless adjustments on pricing structure that affects Kenyans in the name of some complicated formula that I have seen in this document. Chair, you've already guided. We will provide the record of stakeholder engagement, the notices that were put out, the invites that were given. And Chair, I do wish to confirm that we do respect this Honorable House.
Now, Information, Communication and the Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo has invited global development partners and investors to participate in Kenya's ongoing digitization agenda. Owalo says, while Kenya's digital network is ahead of several African countries, 45% of Kenyans still lack access to smart devices. Speaking in Geneva, Switzerland at the 2023 ITU Council meeting, the CES said Kenya has embarked on an initiative to produce affordable smartphones to bridge the exclusion gap, while called on the global community to address concerns such as digital infrastructure, digital skills and cybersecurity.
Digital entrepreneurship. We also need to look at the legal, regulatory and policy framework so that all that we are doing is anchored on a sound policy, legal and regulatory framework, and we also have to address issues of cyber security. Accordingly, we are deliberately reviewing our regulatory instruments to encourage increased private sector investment and participation in ICT in Kenya, and we are also enhancing our response to cyber insecurity.
Now to the insurance sector, insurers paid out claims worth 39.1 billion shillings from January to March this year, representing a 6% increase compared to the same period last year. Insurance Regulatory Authority CEO Godfrey Kiptum said the increase is as a result of increased claims over the period.
The total actionable claims from January to March this year for general liability were 140,787 claims worth 35.53 billion shillings. This was a decline in number of claims but an increase in the amount from 141,632 claims worth 35.13 billion shillings reported from October to December last year. Long-term actionable claims were 910,640 claims worth 28.19 billion shillings, an increase in number and a slight decline in the amount from 137,954 claims amounting to 29.69 billion shillings during the December quarter. Claims intimated and revived reported during the first 3 months of this year were 16,128 claims worth 3.43 billion shillings and 1.75 million non-liability claims worth 14.71 billion shillings. Even though the number of long-term claims increased by 765.1%, the amount paid out decreased by 2.9% to 18.45 billion shillings. The report indicates that general liability claims during the first 3 months of this year were worth 2.28 billion shillings, while non-liability claims were 3.5 billion shillings. Long-term claims during the first 3 months of this year were 2,382 claims worth 169.92 million shillings. The claims payment ratio for the long-term insurance business increased to 96.2%. In terms of numbers, and decreased to 64.5% in terms of amounts compared to 74.4% and 65.2% during the previous quarter. Benson Ruba reporting for Prime Edition.
Now, Kenya is among the most popular old money destination, ranked 5th in the world. A study done by slottracker.com shows Kenya has a diverse landscape from vast savannas to picturesque mountains and spectacular safaris, adventures, iconic national parks and cultural richness, making it an ideal destination.
Old money, which refers to quiet luxury, is the newest trend on social media platforms such as TikTok and Instagram, gaining over 2.5 billion views and 400 million hashtags, respectively. A survey by slottracker.com ranked the destinations that have perfected the art of refinement and discovered the most popular old money destinations around the globe. From enchanting European cities to exotic havens in the Caribbean, the survey found 15 destinations that offered unparalleled experiences of luxury and exclusivity, where the allure of opulence continues to captivate travelers from across the globe. Paris emerged a top old money hotspot with mind-blowing 141.9 million hashtags on Instagram, attributed to architectural marvels such as Louvre Museum, Eiffel Tower, to its prestigious fashion house and haute couture boutiques lining in the elegant streets. Morocco was second due to its vibrant culture and immense beauty, from its palatial architecture to its exquisite traditional art, Moroccan cuisine and desert retreats. Morocco transport people to an era of old grandeur, making it an ideal choice for those seeking a taste of refined luxury. Jamaica landed a solid third place on the list of the most popular old bonnet destination due to its tropical haven and exclusive beachfronts with pristine beaches, world-class golf courses and culinary delights. Ranking fourth position is the Maldives, known as the exclusive resorts, pristine beaches and private water villas. Kenya came in fifth, garnering 12.4 million hashtags on Instagram. Kenya's spectacular wildlife and safari adventures are at the forefront of its allure, with iconic national parks such as Masai Mara and Amboseli showing an abundance of majestic wildlife, including the Big Five. Kenya's diverse landscape providing a stunning backdrop for the unforgettable safari experience.
Now, Kenya's tourism sector is set to receive a major boost following the scheduled arrival of MV Logos Hope vessel, the world's largest book fanfare, in August. MV Logos will make her maiden voyage to Mombasa at the Mbaraki Wharf and will be open to the public from 23rd August until the 3rd October. Constanza Figueres, a member of the advance team, says the vessel arrival will also see a joint training for seafarers in partnership with Bandari Maritime Academy.
The vessel is coming with a couple of hundreds of volunteers. Nobody's employed on board, and part of their journey towards the world is to provide all sorts of empowerment to youth. So we have different youth on board with different backgrounds and having been trained on board.
Three main objectives with Logoso, which is to share knowledge, health, and hope. So the first one, we share knowledge, and mainly through the floating book fair that we have on board. Actually, Logoso is the largest floating book fair in the world. We have over 5,000 different titles that we bring from port to port, and that are open for the people when they visit the ship. They are highly discounted.
We are doing the arrangement. We are working on the arrangements for that, and yes, we are planning to support some different charity organizations as well.
Well, that marks the end of business news for tonight. On standby on the other end of the studio is Karen Kibet with the day's sport. My name is Jenga. Have a good night.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala katika suratul Ahzab aya ya 35 anasema kuwa tumtaje kwa wingi na pia tumtukuze usiku na mchana.
Na tukiangalia ndugu zangu Waislamu, katika mambo na ibada ambazo kwamba sheitan anaishikilia nguvu zaidi na kuifanyia bidii ili Muislamu asiweze kuishikililia, ni ibada ya kumtaja Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, kwa sababu yeye anajua kwamba hii ndio ibada ambayo kwamba iko na malipo mengi zaidi.
To heaven, guide us the way, guide us the way.
It was not supposed to go this far.
Ulikuwa unataka ifike wapi? Uhuni hauna mipaka.
Hii tamaa yako safari hii itakutia wazimu.
Kate, sisi tushamzoea. Lakini wewe mamangu, mimi hata sikujui tena.
Hii nyumba itabadilika. Hamtanipeleka na gia yenu ya kipuzi kama mlivyomfanya binti yangu.
Welcome back to KBC Prime Edition. It's now time for us to talk sports. My name is Karen Kibet. Scotland and Uruguay have arrived in the country ahead of the World Rugby Under-20 Trophy Tournament scheduled to kick off this weekend at the Nyayo National Stadium. Scotland is in Pool A alongside Uruguay, USA and Zimbabwe, while hosts Kenya head Pool B, which has Spain, Samoa and Hong Kong.
Scotland and Uruguay junior rugby team arrived in the country as the clock ticks ahead of the World Rugby Under-20 Trophy Tournament set to kick off this weekend at the Nyayo National Stadium. The arrival of Scotland and Uruguay adds the number of foreign teams that have jetted in after Hong Kong arrived on Sunday night.
We've been training really hard over the last 4 or 5 weeks. And the boys are ready to go and play in the tournament. One of our biggest goals is to really embrace the culture of Kenya, not only enjoy the rugby but also to embrace the cultural opportunities that playing in a tournament like this also provides.
The tournament has attracted 8 teams drawn in 2 pools. Pool A has Scotland, Uruguay, USA and Zimbabwe.
I don't know, but I know that here we have some altitude. But I hope that our players are good to make a good play.
While host Kenya heads Pool B alongside Spain, Samoa and Hong Kong. Each team will play 3 pools matches before a ranking match on the final day. It is the second time Kenya is hosting the Under-20 Trophy Tournament since 2009, when the tournament was known as the Junior World Rugby Trophy. Kenya finished 4th after 1917 third place playoff defeat to Chile, which remains their best Under-20 trophy finish to date. The winners of the tournament will be promoted to the Under-20 Championships in 2024. For Prime Edition, I'm Sela Onyango.
Thank you, Sela, for that report. The 17th edition of the Ndakaini Half Marathon will be held on the 16th of September at Ndakaini Dam, Murang'a County. The half marathon makes a return after a 3-year hiatus after disruptions occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic.
The annual half marathon, popular for its challenging terrain and fundraising efforts towards the conservation of the Ndakaini Dam, makes its return, having been disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic. This year's edition, which will be the 17th since inception, will be run under the theme Conserving the Environment and Promoting Sports Talent at the Grassroots Levels. Speaking during the launch of this year's half marathon, Ndakaini Dam Environmental Conservation Association Chairman James Mukuna said they expect at least 3,000 participants.
This year, we are very much grateful, partnering with the IMG and the other members to host the Ndakaini Half Marathon. And also, I can thank the Athletic Kenya because of a grant to grant us the day and the permit to hold the Ndakaini Marathon.
The marathon will feature races across the 21 kilometers, 10 kilometers and 5-kilometer categories and will be open to the elite, amateur and recreational runners.
It is our humble prayer that
the event will run successfully, and all of you, even the 4th estate, will be there covering the event and also covering about the environmental program that goes on in that area.
Our aim is to bring the event back to its former glory and ensure that eventually we can grow it in a couple of years.
Kenya's 7th seed Cynthia Wanjala Virai Gohil of India and China's Funin Jian advanced to the 3rd in the ongoing ITF World Tennis Tour at the Nairobi Club. The tournament has attracted over 150 tennis players and will come to an end on Saturday.
7th seed Cynthia Wanjala qualified for the 3rd round in the girls singles after thrashing Pav Potocha of USA 6-1, 7-3.
And I did my best. It's not my first time winning the 2nd round. Last tournament I reached in quarters, so my goal is to reach in finals.
India's Virai Gohil beat Marigarana Bhaskaran of Serbia 6-4, 6-2 to book a slot in the 3rd round, while Vema Om of India defeated Canada's Oneska Zain 6-6 to qualify for the next round.
It's my first time here in Kenya. I'm so happy to play here, 2 tournaments. I'm in the main draw today. I will play there. I think I will come here and I hope I play well, so better in the double 2. So this is my dream for this tournament.
In the boys category, Kenya's Omide Baraka lost to Debashi Sen of India 2-6, 6-2, 6-1, while Gadav Garov of India beat Jez Wokta of Poland 6-1, 6-4 to qualify for the 3rd round.
This tournament is important for us because this is what we use to grow our players. In tennis, you have to have a ranking. And for you to have a ranking, you have to play events. For us, tennis, what we really need now are courts. Because as you can see, we are struggling. We only have 8 courts, so we have to try and with a draw in a day, you have to play like over 32 or even close to 40 matches.
The tournament, which has attracted over 150 tennis players, will come to an end on Saturday. King Orimwangi for Prime Edition Sports.
Thank you, Kingori, for that report. The International Cricket Council overseer to Kenya, Tavegwa Mukhulani, says Kenyan cricket can rise again if they compete regularly in international tournaments. New officials took charge of Cricket Kenya in February 2022 with the hope of bettering the sport that had been put on its knees due to endless leadership wrangles. But there is still a lot that has to be done.
Mukhulani mentioned that he believes that the Kenyan team can bounce back to their lost glory if Kenya works hard and also organize several competitions to scout for local talent.
I chaired the subcommittee on the revival of Kenya cricket, and I'm proud of the Kenyans, what they've done, particularly the Kenyan government. It's been very supportive of the programs for Cricket Kenya, and the new board, which is just taken over. It's doable. We can do it as Africa. Other African countries can do what we have done in Zimbabwe.
He also urged the Ministry of Sports to support the game to set it back to the dominance of yesteryears.
I've played quite a bit against Kenya, and I've played against probably one of their best teams that qualified, if I recall correctly, for the Super Sixes in the World Cup.
Kenya got its position back internationally in February last year after the elections of a new Cricket Kenyan board.
Looking forward into the future with Kenya cricket.
After the conclusion of the ICC Men's World Cup qualifiers, Zimbabwe now shifts focus to the T10, which kicks off on the 18th, with Zimbabwe Cricket President Tavegwa Mukhulani urging all African countries like Kenya to show up in this game. For KBC Channel 1, from Harare, Zimbabwe, I'm Daniel Mwendwa.
And my colleagues report Daniel Mwenda brings us to the end of the sports news tonight. My name is Karen Kibet. I'll see you tomorrow with more sports news, but right now I'm now joined by my colleague Betty Kiptum, who will wrap up the bulletin for us. Betty?
Thank you very much, Karen, for that sports update. Of course, that is the end of Prime Edition this evening. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Betty Kiptum, and Susan Thuku has been my colleague on the sign language interpretation. I now leave you with our weekly segment, which is Military Tales. Now, he served in the military for 31 years as an infantry officer, leading ground soldiers at all levels of command and combined armed forces during ground missions. He would later train as a military pilot, as well as joining the tank crew. This week on Military Tales, we focus on Brigadier Emiliano Tonui. Take a look.
Meet Brigadier retired Emiliano Tonui. Prior to his 31-year career in the military, he almost chose a different career route.
After class 4, I told my parents I wanted to be a priest. I was fascinated seeing, white Catholic priests coming to our school. I liked what they were doing, and I said, why can't I be a priest like them? And my parents said, okay, you go to the seminary. So I was sent to a seminary all the way from Sotik to Kakamega. In class 5, 1964, I was 10 years. After a few years in the seminary, I decided not to continue.
Both disciplines at different times in his life.
I went to Kericho Teachers College for 2 years, from 1972 to 1974. But my heart was not really for teaching. I did it because my mother wanted me to. She had a great influence on my life.
Despite his career as an educator, the sky was not the limit.
There was an advertisement in the papers that the military wanted cadets, officer cadets, and I saw the qualifications and I said, wow, why don't I give it a try? Maybe that is my chance to be a pilot. Of course, I had developed interest to be in the military once I left the seminary. And I wanted to be a pilot.
His first rank was second lieutenant that saw him posted at the infantry in Langata.
Infantry are foot soldiers. They are rifle battalions. So my first assignment as a young second lieutenant was in 7th Battalion, which was based in Langata. It is still based there. Within 3 months of reporting to the unit, the Ogaden War between Somalia and Ethiopia broke out. So we were scrambled to the war front. Mandera, that is a border between Somalia, Ethiopia, and Kenya, right at the corner. And that is where I saw combat for the first time.
The military provided an opportunity to pursue his dreams, some that saw him serve as part of the tank crew.
In 1978, January to August 1978, we trained in India how to drive tanks, how to fire, how to communicate, and a little tactics. So this was my new job. I left the infantry. I became a tank crewman. There were no instructors to expand now to form the battalions. So I was assigned the role of teaching gunnery. Gunnery means teaching officers and soldiers how to fire tanks, how to drive them.
He says his journey towards aeronautics was inspired when he was a little boy.
I was inspired by a pilot, a European young pilot who used to fly over our house as he was spraying tea in the tea estates. And whenever he landed, we used to run to the airstrip, ask him a few questions. Then I said, why can't I be a pilot like him? And I asked him, can I fly like you? He said, yes, but you got to go to school.
He points out his career had a fair share of highlights, these even as he recalled his most memorable operations. From a second lieutenant, he rose through the ranks. His decorated military career was not without challenges.
I remember one day when we just landed at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We were happy. We are going to call to meet our families. But by then there were no mobile phones, so we could not have called the families to say we were going to fly. But as soon as we landed at the base, our commander was telling us, take off again. A new mission had come. Sometimes we would walk for miles, and those were very challenging. And of course, During operations, you sleep under trees. I mean, you don't move around with tents every time in operations.
Some moments almost led to him losing his life.
During the training, one of the recruits, he was told to hold the gun at a certain angle while the other one drops a bomb. The moment the bomb was dropped into the mortar launcher, he tilted the gun 90 degrees and the bomb went 90 degrees up. Somebody said, "Sir, the bomb has gone up." There was a truck carrying ammunition which was standing behind. I mean, whenever there is firing, there is a truck carrying ammunition. And that explosives, bombs and so forth for these mortars and others. So I thought, since this thing has gone up, I better shelter under, go under there. If that bomb had landed on that truck and I was underneath, I'd actually dug my own grave.
After his retirement, his career as a commercial pilot commenced.
At the end of 2007, sadly, I had to leave the military. I would have loved to continue because I had worked in the military for 31 years. But there is a certain age by which you must retire. It is called a run-out date or a retirement age, depending on what rank you are. My first job as a civilian pilot started within 12 hours after my retirement. It was a very interesting period because that is the time campaigns, presidential campaigns and other campaigns were going on. So here I was once more as a civilian pilot, starting work for the first time and flying all over the country. Of course, I was very familiar flying around Kenya during my course of duty in the military. Now I was going back as a civilian, flying from one end of Kenya to another.
Once he left the cockpit, he retreated to his farm in Uasin Gishu County. He now makes a living as a farmer.
March 2008, I got a new appointment, a new job, and worked in the East African School of Aviation in Embakasi as a lecturer. A job I did for about 1 year. And then I went back to flying again briefly. And then I decided to say, okay, let me do something else. So I went to do wheat farming in Narok, which I did for 2 years. Leasing farms, planting wheat. That is when I made a decision to settle in Uasin Gishu.
Jackie Wimbiru, Military Tales.